Hey guys, welcome back to the Ask Muso podcast, brought to you by Yellow Music. I'm back home. I have upgraded with a few different pieces of artwork since you last saw me here, and I am very excited to be with two good mates of mine that I've been desperate to get on the pod since last season. Pass it to you guys, boys. You can do a better introduction of yourselves, I reckon. So, Harlum and Mack, welcome to the Ask Muso podcast at last, and say g'day.
At last. Thank you very much for having us. It has been a long-awaited journey.
Yes.
But, it is one of those things, even though we're local musos, we seem to hard to catch three people in one room.
Literally, though,
Yeah.
I look at certain bands late November and stuff that I'm seeing in a few weeks' time, and they're doing their 7-6 or 7-piece, and I'm like, how do you guys ever get together and ever arrange ourselves three people? And we all local and we all struggled so much, and I think it's just that busyness thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is hard because everyone works as well, and so always juggling.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like when you're in high school, you hang out with your mates every day. The second you've got normal responsibilities, that goes out the window. It's like, let's arrange for in 3 months' time. I think I can get that day off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you want to just have a super impromptu catch up 4 weeks from now between 2 and 6?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, I've got dinner between 2 and 4. Actually, you know what? Let's play it by ear, and then
It's so exact.
and then it becomes 2027. So it's lovely to finally catch up with you blokes.
We did it.
And I suppose I want to kick off with, how'd you guys meet?
Good question.
Do you want to roll this one, yeah?
Yeah. So we were actually working at a theme park called Aussie World, and I was in the entertainment department. Harlem here was in the rides department.
Ride attendant,
Yeah. Big teacups, man.
That's where we started. We worked our way up. But
Yeah, and obviously I was just that cool that he had to come join my department.
yeah.
Yeah, purely because of me, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I eventually joined the entertainment department, and we worked in there for over a year. We both ended up doing so much for Aussie World in all the different sectors.
Yeah.
But that was definitely our funnest part, being in the horror maze as actors or acting as princes or pirates. We did a lot of different things, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So is that sort of how you got a bit of an introduction to sort of that sort of world of performance and dressing up and all that sort of stuff? Or have you guys always sort of had that performance thing yourselves individually?
I personally started in musical theatre. I think that's pretty much where you started as well. Both in high school, we were doing music and musical theatre. But as I was leaving high school, I was doing work at theme parks. I was doing musicals. I went to university and did a major in acting and a minor in music and creative writing. And that just took me to doing acting for a number of years.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And how about yourself?
Yeah, I've been brought up around a lot of musicals, music, everything to do with that. Even just Disney and stuff that got me right into it.
Yeah.
You see the musicals, and I saw a couple live productions and everything, and it's great to see that performance side when you're in person. You can see all these people making that narrative come to life.
You see the moving parts. It's something very
Yeah.
different.
Very different. I did live stage shows, acting monologues and things like that. It is definitely not the same as performing with music to hide behind at the very least, So there's a whole nother level of stress there, but also a whole nother level of rush, when you're getting a laughing crowd and things like that. There's a lot of power in that too.
Absolutely. I suppose, well then hip hop. Is this just you just both, is it a matter of coincidence where you both were into that, you both like that style of music, and then you went, oh my God, I'm a bit of an MC on the side. How did that all sort of come to be?
I think there's a bit of a different story for us there. For me, I knew hip hop from a very young age. My parents played all the naughty raps probably a little bit too early for me, but we're here now. And I was always writing a lot poetically, and then I tried to do my own raps and things. And the precipice, if you will, was I went to this concert when I was 15, I believe, for 360.
Okay,
And
yeah.
he had this opener from America called Hobson, who was really big at the time. And he had this segment in the middle of his show saying, I want someone to jump up and freestyle to my song. There's going to be these verses in there. And even me then, I was like, I want to do this. And I had these friends around me who were quite tall. I'm like, throw me up. And
Yeah.
I convinced everyone around me in the crowd.
Don't have a sign,
this
mate.
This is the guy.
I'm the sign. Throw me. Coach, put me in.
So they threw me up, and I think I did okay because the crowd they were feeling it.
Yeah.
And it gave me that first
They were
ever
cooking, yeah.
crowd rush. So
Okay.
I was like, this is what I got to be doing. And then from there on, I kind of started that journey. So,
Gee whiz, now that's like the baptism of fire completely. Everyone's like, I played to 3 people and sung to my mum, and I was like, whoa, man, literal chills.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, so it was just like a small, maybe sold out crowd, and, they were already cooking, and I just came up and did, 16 bars on my best.
I guess it is a really good situation to be thrown into in that sense. So, but that rush is insane. So I've been chasing that rush ever since.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, then, Mack, what about you?
So, I've been learning instruments and like performing music since I was 7. So I've been around it my whole life. I've always wanted to be able to write my own music, be able to express myself through music on stage. And I've always loved even just performing covers and stuff, loved it. Couldn't think of chord progressions to save me. So when I found out about how Harlum was into hip hop and everything, and you can just get beats from producers, find the ones that you like, write to them, and make a hit out of it. I decided it was worth the challenge. Started researching a lot into hip hop flows, all sorts of stuff, just to be able to construct a hip hop track. And I love it because I don't have to worry about the stress of I've got to build this whole thing from scratch. I can go okay, I've found a beat from a good producer that I love, and I can write something on it and turn it into something that people want to hear.
Yeah, and also I think if you're lyrically inclined, which I feel like I am lyrically inclined, and I remember sitting at the kitchen bench with a mate of mine who essentially got me into the hip-hop scene essentially myself. So I was at uni and I was playing pretty much with anyone who wanted to play, and he was mythic, great bars, really good guy, had great energy, and we sort of discussed in one of the studio rooms at Cole Arts, do you want to maybe give the Bliss and Esso thing a bit of a try, just see what sort of goes on? And I didn't even know Dan Kirby at the time, but I was like, yeah, do you want to just see what happens? Maybe I'll sit behind you, and if you got anything coming up, maybe we could just throw the drums in it with the decks. And it started with me essentially playing over full beats with his DJ at one small council gig thing, and then eventually he's like, no, we need to cut those out, and you're just going to play them. And that's sort of how I got into that. And from there, he was like, man, I just listened back to some of your songs. I just had Spotify up and I realized the volume was down. And I'm just looking at the words. And he's like, you could just take out 2-3 syllables and we got bars here. We could really do something with that. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, man, you could do a rap track. So I thought that was hilarious. And I was like, okay, maybe let's see what happens. I don't know if the goods in me. And then we ended up sort of redoing it not that long ago and doing a track called Warmer Weather that was essentially some ideas I had about moving up to the coast, but I cut out a few of them and made it less melodic and more straight bars, stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh man, this is great! This is great!" And I was like, cool. I really love listening to hip hop. I really love the vibe, and I love to have. I suppose it gives my rhythm brain the night off a little, just rather than listening to geez, that drum beat is and this and that. It's like sweet. Well, that bit's done. That bit's its own sort of instrumental section. Now I guess you have to focus on something else. Yeah, so for me, that's what I like about that as a listener is that, the ears can have a night off from listening to the snare sound and how the balance of the drum kit is.
I really like that perspective as well. I think there is that sort of crowd that I really yearn for when I'm writing as a lyrical artist, that I'm striving to have those people who really listen lyrically, take that time to notice things. But there is this crowd in hip hop, which I guess you could call the mainstream crowd, who are still just listening to that beat. And they're just there to hear the beat as well. So I guess that's a bit of a challenging thing. Yeah, I don't know if you feel that way, but I don't know.
Because there's elements of you can put anything on a certain beat, but if it's not ticket, if it's not zingy in the word sense, or if it's just a dull beat and the lyrics they don't have an opportunity to really shine, it's still that balance. You've still got that balance.
Still got to have that balance. Yeah, there's a lot of power in it. It's something I struggle with all the time, and I've been starting to work with a lot of different local producers and try different sounds. I'm never trying to box myself into one sort of subgenre, if you will. So that's always a challenge I'm playing with.
Exactly, and there's so many different bits to it. It's I find Oz rap and just that whole side of things, Pez 360, Set Century, all those, that's always been what Set Century went to one of the high schools that was a 50-50 of the one I was going to go to, sort of thing. So he went to Dramana Secondary College. I lived in Dramana, was part of Dramana Fire Brigade. So a lot of the reference in Run, all the references in Run, they are around my neighborhood. So stuff like that. And that's how I sort of got into it from there. And I was like, man, I love how they do it because it has the culture. I feel like in a lot of songs, it's sung in a way that's generic enough that it's like, oh, I can relate to that and you can relate to that, even though we've had different lived experiences.
Yeah.
But then when you get something like, I feel like the Oz rap thing, it very much has that Australian culture undertone.
Yes.
And I really like that as a listener. I'm like, yeah, man. He says it how it is, how we would say.
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I and you definitely get that in other genres across the border, but it is probably the most prominent in Australian rap, I would say. Still, even though you're starting to see so many different subgenres of the rap starting to branch out. I'd say like when you look at punk bands like June Rats and things like that, that really push out that Australian culture as clear as day. That's what I hear constantly in my local scene. So yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I definitely know from both being a little bit in the scene back in Victoria, as well as just watching things and following, Lewis Spears' podcast and him being great mates with Greeley and stuff like that.
I love that guy.
What are your thoughts on like the hip hop community? Now, this we could spend 14 hours on this alone, but like, just give me your thoughts individually on that. Like, I feel like community and collaboration is king. That's no surprise to anyone. Yep. But I feel like hip hop, we're looking at another level again. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Would you like to start? Or?
Yeah, sure. It's a little bit of a tough one because like when you get to either more mainstream or just more well-known artists, so like even Bit of Belief and Mack that we performed for, like they pulled through quite a decent crowd and it was great, and you can see all the community come together and enjoy a night of hip-hop and everyone's there for it. But then you get to smaller gigs with lesser-known artists and you don't really have too many people going out of their way going like, oh yeah, I want to see what hip-hop's going on around. Everyone that I know who's an artist is so supportive of each other. Like we've all got each other's backs. We've been there for each other through every gig, every moment. And it's great to have that community within ourselves. But then, yeah, for those smaller gigs, it can be really hard to get people in because they're always looking for the bigger artists. But then the second you do have that, then everyone's there for it.
Yeah, I feel like there's these tiers right now. How I see the hip-hop culture in Australia is... there's these big artists breaking out, but it's a very small number of artists. So you can necessarily put Kid Laroi in the hip-hop sector at times, and then you've got 1-4 and a few drill artists, and then you've still got people like Seth Century and Draft touring around Australia, and Bliss and Esso, and Hilltop Hoods going really strong. 360's doing regional tours right now, and then you've got like... the chillin' it side, there are these sectors of people being really successful, and then it seems to be this a very different barrier, to get to that next precipice, if you will. Yeah,
I get that, and like it's like part of the reason that I am doing this is the idea of let me help you find your next favorite artist. Everyone says, I remember chatting to one of my mates who in like episode 2 of the first season. And Jared was a Brisbane player, played in the scene, rock scene, had a couple of bands, Pelican Jed, The Cops, all this stuff.
Yep.
And he said, there's this support band that often wanted to be a part of our sets, and we loved them. They were good on the Brisbane scene. They were called Powderfinger, and it's just stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, you don't get to that unless you know.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's just a matter of changing that mindset, I guess, and just being like,
for sure.
Yeah, I know I played for, Steve-O, the big guy, last week, but how about this thing and how about that thing? And
100%.
I see the variety of stuff that you guys do as chalk and cheese from what I was used to back in Victoria and just years ago. I feel like we were just chatting just on off air, but just before I finished setting up this morning about you playing on a boat. And, like, and we've done everything from, doing Olay, playing with Sailing in Space to being on a boat,
Yeah, we found ourselves in some really interesting situations. Even when we were first starting out as like a duo, if you will. Where did we travel off to? Well, what suburb was it?
We went up to Calliope, so a bit past Gladstone.
So I got a call one day and from a promoter of sorts, and they were like, can you travel 5 hours up this way for this Fireball promoted gig and we'll pay you this amount of money? And it was so sketchy. I barely knew the guy. And I'm like, look, if you can send me half of it right now so I can travel there.
I like it. Yep.
Then I'll do it. And I was trying to call his bluff. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And the money came into my account, and I was like, "Oh crap! I've got to do this trip right now for 5 hours." So I call Liam, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to do a road trip?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, 5 hours there and back.
I need better than that. Just letting you know.
Yeah, and we were so unprepared. We went out into this dressing like we do, all crazy and out there, bright, and we go out into this tiny little country town with a couple of like cowboys in this little pub, and there's this little fireball set up in the corner, and we did our thing, but it took a bit of working the crowd. For
Yeah,
sure.
I can imagine.
You learn a lot in these situations.
Yeah.
There's definitely been a few of those experiences. But circling back to like Greeley and Lewis right now, where I see the scene shifting, it's such an important time because, like you were saying, like connection is everything right now, and collaboration. And Greeley and a few other people are doing such a good job of doing that and connecting these artists and up and coming artists all around Australia. And it's a really exciting time to see that happening and that sort of thing. So, yeah, there's this shift happening, I'd like to think. And yeah, it's due to a lot of cool things happening around Australia. So.
Yeah, and also like a lot of times like this can relate to other things that people may not be so in agreement with, but it's like you need to have some people at the top, some people that have the money, that have the pull, that have the stuff. The intent is not something that can just be, it has to be in there. It has to be in there. The intent just doesn't come by having money or power or influence, but you need to have enough people with money, power, and influence. You need to have your Greeleys in there that can be like, I can pull 7 people from Tassie, 4 people from Adelaide, 3 people from the Sunshine Coast. I can do that because I'm a name, and it's just about the attitude of how they use it. And for those that don't know him, like he spent some time in the jug, and he had some time to reflect, and as part of that, he's like, the least I can do is give back. And
100%, yeah.
And that's I think the intent, the attitude. That is what I see continuously so prevalent in the hip hop scene as just in such a positive way. Like there's always dickheads, there's always bits and bobs.
You're going to see both sides of the coin.
But I feel like as a cultural base, it's really more of a community than a competition on that front.
Yeah.
And just the idea of how you guys all work together and, you want to do a spot, and the amount of things I've seen you doing and just the gig guides and being able to jump from one thing to the other. And, I'm done for the month. I've got no weekends free and international and just stuff coming back. It's really, really awesome as an outsider to see that happening and just to see you guys just going from strength to strength.
Thank you. It's been a crazy time too of just things popping up that just like one thing coming to the next that you just don't expect. But it's always been an exciting challenge that's kind of built us to where we are now. So.
Are you guys writing anything together at the minute? Is there anything sort of on the cards at the minute that...
Right now, I mean, we've been doing so many different things and juggling things. It's been a bit of a solo ride, but the writing has not stopped, and the ideas have been bouncing off each other constantly. We've got a few things that have been in development for a long time as well. So, yeah. Is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, like I've just recently started a new job that like I wake up super early, start at 6 a.m. and because I don't know the job too well at the moment, I've been working a bunch of overtime. So yesterday I had an 11-hour day, which was so much fun. And
I love the way like I didn't even change your face. You're like, I was there all day. I loved it.
It was fun.
I am living the dream.
Yeah. Click your pen 3 times if you need assistance. Tap the microphone in Morse code, please.
Blink twice if you need help.
But outside of having such a good time, you are still trying to find,
It's hard finding that time to be able to do it, and I'm slowly getting there. I wish I could be doing more than I am right now. But there's definitely like a few things in the works. We've got a few tracks together that we might potentially turn into a little album of sorts.
Potential mixtape EP. It's funny in hip hop culture what you even call these things. There's like you can have your EP and then it can be a mixtape depending how you release it, or it could be an album even if it's just 4 songs these days.
I actually loved learning the lingo when I was doing stuff with Mythic. Just like when he said, "Oh, we're going to jump on he flew me down for his EP launch." It was an EP. No, it was an album. It was an album launch, I think. Oh, fuck. Now.
Here we go.
Dean, don't hold me to this, mate. And as part of that, like, he's like, oh, we're going to do a section of the cypher that we did. And I was like, words, learning so many new words, cypher. So you mean like big collab with all the boys? He's like, yeah, but big collab with all the boys doesn't sound so good. So it's a cypher. I'm like, yeah, dope.
Even people just saying freestyle, that will have different opinions of what an actual freestyle is. Yeah,
exactly.
That can cause arguments for sure.
Exactly. Well, I will say that we, when we've done the Sailing in Space set, we've done different tracks. We have enjoyed a freestyle, safe word. I can use a safe word.
I would say freestyle.
To freestyle over that.
You can say the F word with me.
Well, you know lots of swears anyway. So from your upbringing,
that does happen. Yeah.
With that whole setup, like I love watching you get up and just literally freestyle and just figure it out on the fly.
Thank you.
Since that was actually your start, that's now sort of answered the question I was almost going to ask. You still love that sort of thing. Like when I first saw you guys actually perform, it was back at Olay. So the first gig of last year, which is just crazy to think how long ago that was. And you had the whiteboard and you were doing the words and you're figuring out, and there's some winners on there. Like, always someone puts orange and purple.
Someone will always
puts
put
cockhead and stuff.
Color. Something to do with a phallus.
What about when we got lackadaisical?
Yeah, there will always be someone who tries to trick me out with a word that I don't know. But I guess I love those challenges as well. And even when you slip up, they're the bits that people remember.
Exactly.
And
like we had that. We the Justice Reader played at Dewey, and John has this section where he does that. Like we'll make up a song. Yeah. He just gives you a rough idea of what it gives you. I play drums. I'm just happy to be there. He gave it like a bit of a, we're going to go these ones and this one, and then the bridge section might be a bit of this. All right, you guys, now throw us some words. And someone's like, it's Dewey. So someone's like, meth. And I'm just like, fuck me.
Yeah.
John's like, sweet. And then we got some family of his there because his folks were over from the States, and they're like putting in like their nephew's name, and then he got like meth.
Oh gosh.
How are we gonna link that? And then to his credit, he did well, and I love that. I just love sitting in there and watching that, and I love watching you do it. I gotta ask, what are some of your favorite gigs?
Look, honestly, even just as far as like what we've been able to take away from the gig, because like I've loved every gig that we've done, but there's certain ones that I appreciate that little bit more because we've been able to walk away with so much more knowledge from it. So like even when we did the gig in Calliope, it was so weird. There was like no one in the town. There was a bus full of people from Fireball, but that's pretty much it. And
before we saw the bus, I was so unsure if this is where we needed to be.
And there were like 3 old dudes in the pokies not paying attention or anything, and it was so hard just to get them engaged because they've organised for people to drive 4.5, 5 hours to entertain them with hip hop music. But none of them really care. They're like, you could have just played a Spotify playlist and we'll just have a chat and a drink.
Yeah.
And
did you ever find out why they did it there? Just intro. Did they ever find out why they actually did it?
It was like this touring Fireball bus doing like little pop-up shows regionally in the middle of country towns. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very interesting. And I don't know how they got in touch with me through this guy. Yeah. But you do these things as a musician.
Yeah. And it was that's one of my favorite gigs because we got to see a completely different part of Queensland. I've not been up that way myself yet, and it was a really interesting road trip. Granted, it was very long. I had a couple naps in the car.
Yeah, I did a lot of the driving, but that's okay.
I think it's like, me too. Guilty. I'm like, fuck, man. 3 cameras, mate. You want to just... Like Bailey Walker edits this. He'll cut that out, but
nothing
he did a little bit of driving. I'm just glad he came along for the trip, honestly. But from there, we've done those, and then we've rapped on a pontoon and a festival, and we've ran our own shows in the Valley in Brisbane, and then we've done fundraisers, opened up for big national artists, internationals, and it's kind of never ending what's surprising. I don't know if I have a favourite. I think one of our favourites has got to be when I had like a single release. It was the first show I ever ran with Liam, and it's chaos, all the way through, and learning what actually doing the behind the scenes stuff is like as well.
Yeah.
A nightmare, but I loved every moment of it. So yeah, and it turned out really good. So yeah.
And just for context, for those of you watching, Mack's real name is Liam.
Oh yeah, so
Oh, sorry.
that's fine. For me, it didn't even like trigger in my brain. I was just like, yeah, it's got Cooper and Liam here, but I wasn't gonna do it like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, as long as one of you responds, I'll ring a little bell, and yes, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am actually a human.
Yeah. You don't punch in an Mack at work.
It is a very interesting thing though, because we a lot of our friends are now through the hip hop community and stuff who just know us by our rap names and still don't know us by our real names, and so you kind of get used to when you're around them introducing yourself as Harlum, or even though it's just my last name. Just for the
people. The smoke and mirrors, they're gone. But that's actually a good point. I was going to ask you that. How does what's your go-to? Like, is that what you lean towards for like in a live music setting? You would introduce yourself as that? Like,
I do, yeah.
Typically, but the worst thing is with people who don't know who I am as an artist that have like come up to me going, "Hey, sorry, who are you? Like, are you performing tonight or whatever?" My go-to now is just to go, sorry, do you want my human or my artist name?
Yeah, do you want my human or my superhero name?
Yeah.
I like that one, actually.
Yeah, like, which identity do you want? Because I can give you both, I can give you either. Just, like, let me know if you're talking to me as an artist or as a person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I find it hard enough to get... Like, not that it's the hardest name ever, but just getting Harlem down sometimes when you're in a live room and it's loud sometimes, it's hard for people to figure that out.
Yeah.
So to get them to figure out the first name as well is just a whole extra step.
Yeah, one thing at a time, guys.
Usually I'm like, it's Harlem, like the Globetrotters or like the Shake or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. See, if like with Del, when we've done stuff, like I remember one of the first shows I played with him when we were doing like a battle bands thing for opening for Smashing Pumpkins, and they had a they're like, hey, we're Delacoma, and he's like, it's Del like the computer, and I was like, yeah, and coma like the big sleep, and I was like, well, I suppose that works. Like, because some people, like, I don't know, some people just don't know what you're going to say when it's one big word. Like, it's phonetic. It makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
But maybe I'm too in it to understand that it makes perfect sense. So,
well, I mean, we always make it a challenge. Well, I'll just tell a little bit of a story here. Whenever we do sets, we usually write a bit of a cover.
A few moments later.
It's just because this conversation is so fire, bro.
I'm so glad I didn't stop the recording.
Whenever we do shows, we try to keep it interesting and start with like some sort of cover, if you will, or we'll rap on a popular beat but put our own lyrics on it and come out. And usually make the rap something to do with the gig we're actually doing and things like that.
Yo, pack it up, pack it in. Let me begin. I'm back in Harlem, in the city of the sin. We're kicking it in Brizzy. Got the brother with me. All I need now is a bottle of the whiskey. And chickies out of Frisky. Yo, that is a definite. We gonna get it cooking, cause you know I am the chef with it.
So we always have these challenges of throwing our actual names in raps and incorporating, you know, relevant things all the time. I think that's a fun thing. And it also, you know, the more we can reference our rap names, the more people will get it in their head.
That's true. I actually really like, and I don't know if this is something you've thought of or maybe you always like, obviously, but that's exactly what I mean. I find that it's almost like you have a musical form of sort of stand-up in there. And like, not saying that it's a novelty and that it's a joke, but it's like you have that. Like, some people are there because they're like, oh, man, this guy can put some bars together. And, oh, geez, that Liam guy, I think his name is, he's really good. You know, he's got a really good flow, whatever. But then to have that stuff in there that's funny, like, I think about when Dylan does a couple of raps in the Sound and Space set, and he'll come up with something and it'll just be like, you know, one of the things ends with, and take me out for fucking dinner. And he'll be like, take me out to Soul Bar. And everyone's like, that's me!
Yeah.
I'm at Soul Bar! You know,
we love that stuff.
And I love watching you guys do that because you do such a great job of that. And that's how I see it when I've heard it and I've seen it live and stuff. That's what I think of it as. It's like a different thing to not the freestyle, but you're like, no, I own this. This is mine. It's like, oh, you're there. You know, welcome back to, you know, Brisbane. Fuck, I'm in Brisbane.
This is for you.
Hello, Brisbane. Lovely to see you today. You know,
Brisbane.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even just the other night when we were playing and Connor was playing open for Delacoma, and he's like, at the precinct, mind you, and he's like, hello, Brisbane. Like, it's just like that, Ben. It's just like, that just breaks the ice. Like, you're performing to me in order for us to perform and have a musical conversation where I'm invested in you and vice versa. yeah, let's do something that can just ease us into it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few other things we do at shows that ease. I don't know if they ease people or stress them out sometimes.
They evoke fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze, fuck you. A little bit.
Yeah.
They evoke one of the four.
We got to try, bring out all emotions at a show. That's how it works, yeah.
I feel like it's at least 60% freeze though, because like we yell out some random stuff at shows.
Yell
and
out,
you just see half
throw
of them just-
out, yeah.
We were doing a food giveaway, and I've gone to throw out a pack of Tim Tams. As soon as I've thrown it, this dude's turned around, got hit in the back of the head.
I feel like there needs to be more explanation. We watched, because we try to take inspiration from all of our favourite shows. We go and watch and things.
Including Ready, Steady, Cook, it seems.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we went and saw this Canadian artist called Baby No Money, who he's pretty incredible. Lots of people know him. And he, at his show, brought out a book he bought from the op shop that day, and it was a cookbook. And he's like, I'm going to give away this cookbook. And the whole crowd just went nuts. And he opened it up and started reading this chicken dish. And he's like, 200 grams of chicken. And everyone's just like, whoa! I have chicken at home! And the last one, a pinch of salt. And everyone's just like, whoa! And then he throws the book out. People go nuts. Song starts. And we're like, we got to do something like that. We got to take that. And I'm like, what can we give away that's funny? And so I bought all these Australian iconic foods like Tim Tams and chicken in a biscuit and all this stuff. And we got the whole crowd going, chicken in a biscuit, chicken in a biscuit. And
I love that.
Those are the bits that everyone remembers.
Absolutely. And like, talk about points of difference. That is one thing I've never even remotely had factor in my brain with you guys, as in like, what are they doing? What aren't you guys doing? Like, points of difference, you got kings. Like that. That's how I say it. Like, when I see you guys perform, it's a matter of, like you did your stuff really well, and but you did your material well, you did your crowd work well, you did everything well, and then there's the things that are your points of difference, which is giving people concussions with Tim Tams, and
happen. Sometimes it doesn't even make the crowd. We threw it hit the roof and came back down.
I've done that with a drumstick once. They were ready for it, but I think someone took offense to it or something, because it's just comes straight out of the thing, and it's like, that seems a little bit aggressive, guys. It was just meant to be like, I finished the set and like it was broken. I was just throwing out, but wow, is it going? Get the fuck out of here! It's like,
I want your stick.
Okay, sorry, I misread that room then, I guess, a little bit, but I love that, and I love just watching you guys develop, because you're already doing so many things and really setting the trends, I think, on a lot of that.
Thank you.
That stuff that is just no one else is doing. Those points of difference, and that's what takes it from person standing with Mike doing rap to performing. Yeah. And anyone who has not seen, or should see, luckily there's plenty of ways you can see these gentlemen play. But man, you gotta, you seriously gotta. Talking to the barrel of the camera now, you gotta see these guys, because they're doing stuff that no one else is doing. And like, if you like hip hop, well, that's just a bonus. But it's a bonus, not a prerequisite. I'll stress that. Liking hip hop to come and see, I almost said Liam and Mack. Cooper will be there apparently. And so the four of them. If you ever want to see the four of them perform, you'll never see them twice in the same room. But if you ever want to see them perform under their real or superhero names,
that's right.
You gotta do it, because it's one hell of a performance, and it's very different to anything else that I think anyone else is doing. So
I really appreciate those words, man. I think every time we have a gig come up, we have the normal rehearsals, but before that, or even after that, we have these sit down sessions of what new can we bring, and what funny things can we do, and how can we do some crowd work here, and obviously write new things, and it's all part of the fun.
Yeah, even just improving on certain things that we've got in there. So like, we've done the food giveaway a few times. And
worked on our throw. We played a bit of catch.
The last one, I got it right.
We decided to start throwing lighter things.
Like we were thinking a bottle of grog, but maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Respectfully.
But it's like even just little things. Like, we've found that like a couple people have said like giving out the Tim Tams and the shapes was brilliant, but it seemed like it went on for too long. So a few people out the back were losing interest and whatever. And little things like that, where we've picked up on stuff and gone, okay, like we can still do that. We'll bring out new stuff so that way it's not using the same stuff each gig. But we need to make it shorter and
always trying like to sharpen it up and they're trying the new things and just always seeing how can we make this better. I think is
like
the best challenge.
Even at the last gig that we had at the back room, it was like we kept it shorter. We went through the first couple of things real quick, and then to sort of grab everyone's attention again right at the end before we went into a track, it was like, yo, no way, you've got tiny teddies?
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's I just recently put together a video which should be out just before this episode comes out, and in part of it, it was talking about stage confidence and having that beating that stage fright and being able to have those performance anxiety things put to sleep in a way that is not just drinking your sorrow so that you can get a bit of buzz. It's actually how to beat it for good. And it's one of those things, it's about learning, and the learning comes from yourselves. You record and review. It comes from other musicians, obviously, that you are obviously surrounded by, but it does come from the audience. And at the same time, if you're trying the same bit, which in this case is, Liam trying not to give people concussion. If you're trying like the food thing, which is a bit, it works. It's a good bit. And it's bombing. At the same time, it's not the audience. You play enough rooms that if it's consistently bombing, it's definitely not the fact that every room you try is bombing. You need to take that feedback on and go, okay, how can we... Yes, but maybe slightly different approach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There has always been things that work and definitely things that don't work. But that's the stuff I like, the exciting stuff that just freaks you out. I think that's why I always bring out the whiteboard. I've always got to try a freestyle on the spot because it's that stress and adrenaline can always bring out something crazy.
Exactly, and you can't do it without some form of engagement. So it's not like hey guys, I want you to all move to the front and say woo. It's like you don't even have to be that involved.
Exactly.
You can literally just go. Can you say the word pajamas?
Yeah.
You can just say it real boring. Like you don't. But
exactly.
then I guarantee that when you reference the ABC3 program and you say bananas in pajamas. And you're like, fuck, that's my word.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like, you said it.
Exactly.
You're going to be like, you said my word. And that's exactly the response that you want to elicit. And that's how you build that rapport and you build that engagement in a way that is unique to your style of music. And I love to see that. And I love how that's sort of working for you guys because, any way we can build that community and build the engagement more in a live setting to get people more excited and more involved. And as you said, that's the memorable bit. That's what they tell everyone.
Sure. And there's so many other great artists locally and around the place doing it. We go to so many gigs, like you guys, of course. So watching Sailing in Space do a gig is always inspiring, like how you guys interact with the crowd and stuff like that. But I think we're always just trying to take notes and get inspiration and soak it all in because there is so much talent around, as you know.
And I'm still asking to this day how Jesse has that much energy. I watch him for one track, I swear, and the amount of times he jumps around and he's yelling out and throwing his hair around. I get halfway through a song and I'm like, dude, I'd be sweating so much right now.
Yeah, and that was whilst we were doing the spacesuits too, so that's a whole nother...
Yeah, we know about that. We came out in a onesie once, which was we didn't do it again.
Yeah, it was once for a reason. We
done.
did it, we ticked it off, we lost 4 kilos and we moved back.
We did it in the rehearsal too, and we're like, okay, we got to keep these on for one song and then do a quick change or whatever, and we did that and it was still too much.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we did it a couple times, air conditioned too. We're in a fully like soundproof music room, air conditioning. We've got like short sleeves and everything. Like we're keeping everything light and breezy just so that way we don't sweat and like exhaust ourselves too much. We're like, okay, we'll just do the intro, see how long it takes to change, and we're sweating our asses off.
So much sweat.
And then we're like, okay, well, he's got to do it for another song after that because we went straight into one of his tracks. So I was like,
make it, smooth. Like, okay, you go change, and then I'll rap, and then I'll change, and you rap, and
and I do not envy him. I was so glad that I got out of it sooner. But like, while I'd do it again, but purely for the people.
Yeah,
like,
just for the people, guys.
It worked. That's the thing that sucks, is those sort of things work.
25 likes on this episode total, so I'm going to make it really easy. 25 likes on any platform, any rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. they'll do it.
We
That's
do
a
it for the
promise.
people.
Yeah.
We do it for the people. Well, where are lovely people going to find you both?
Probably at the next gig, but
many.
otherwise online.
Socials. My socials are Harlum, HARLUM_bars, or just Harlum on Spotify and all the music streaming platforms.
And I'm Mack on Spotify, all the other streaming platforms and everything. And on Instagram, I'm Mack Official, ELMACK Official.
No, that's right. I'll put a handle up there so they won't even have to. They'll be
Sweet.
somewhere. They're above, below your head, somewhere.
Nice and easy.
Exactly.
How cool is that?
Do it in post, mate. That Bradley Walker guy, he'll let a list up for us. Much like the smoke alarm bit, which I still want to include some of the smoke alarm bit. So if you're hearing this,
it'll
it
be
didn't
there.
get trashed. There'll be a little bit of the smoke alarm bit, and we will revisit it because it was too comedically interesting.
Yeah, I missed the cue, but at first when it was just the alarm, like the first alarm going off with the boo boo.
Gonna start dancing.
I was either going to start dancing or I was like, oh, this would be funny. Whoa, whoa, that's the sound of the police.
Yeah. And then it got like too annoying. Like, no, this is actually not fun anymore.
Shut it down. Shut it down.
Like, seriously, like turn the.
It's like when you walk into
Find
a
them in my
primary
house. Fix
school,
it.
like, yeah, it's like in primary school music class. You've got one thing, you're like, okay, you're on beat, and then everyone else comes in and you're like, oh no, please stop.
No, please stop, guys. It's lost its flair very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, chaps, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having a chat and dealing with my smoke alarm dramas. And, well, not dramas, actually. They work fine.
It was fun.
Proof that
Yeah.
it works great.
Gotta do a tester.
Exactly. And proof that, as Mack very clearly stated, Harlem Stories are fire. And so are their bars, so are their shows.
Thank
you got to
you.
go and see these lovely chaps do their thing anywhere they're doing it between... Pretty much anywhere. You've been down in Melbourne, you're doing stuff on the Brizzy River, you've been going all about the sunny coast. So wherever these chaps are performing, you got to go and see them. As I said, hip-hop is not a prerequisite, actually. It's just an interest in having a good time because that's a guarantee. So as always, guys, you know where to find these episodes. You know, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. They're in all the places. I'm really excited to be able to share these two lovely individuals with you all. And until next time, I'll see you later.
Peace out.
See ya.